Solve the equation z squared minus 6z plus 13 is equal to 0. Okay, so first of all we have a quadratic. And if we want to solve a quadratic, we're going to use the quadratic formula, also sometimes called the minus b formula. So the minus b formula, or the quadratic formula, looks like this. Minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So what we're going to do is have a look at our function. And we have z squared minus 6z plus 13. And what we want to do is label the first term as a. So we want to label the z squared term as a. But we have to remember that z really has an invisible 1 in front of it. So a is going to be equal to 1. We're going to label the minus 6z as b, and the constant, which is plus 13, as c. So the coefficient of z squared is always going to be the a, the coefficient of the z is always going to be the b, and the constant on its own is always going to be the c. So now that we know what our a, b and c values are, we just have to substitute them into our formula. But it's very important that we use brackets when we do that, because if we're subbing in a negative number, especially in place of the b squared, which is what we're going to be doing because we're subbing in minus 6, if we don't use brackets, it will end up squaring the 6 and sticking a minus on, giving us minus 36, and that would be incorrect because we want to square the value, so it's going to be minus 6 by minus 6, which will give us positive 36. So it's just important to remember to use brackets when we're doing substitution. Okay, so we're going to have minus and then the b, and the b in this case is minus 6. So we're going to have minus minus 6, which is going to give us positive 6. A minus multiplied by a minus gives a plus. So minus minus 6 just gives us 6, so that's where that 6 comes from there. Next we have the plus minus. Then we have the big square root. Then we have b squared, which in this case is going to be bracket minus 6 bracket squared, because our b is minus 6. Then we have minus 4. Then we have that multiplied by the a, which in this case is going to be 1, so multiplied by 1. And then multiplied by the c, which in this case is going to be 13, so multiplied by 13. That's going to be divided by 2a, which is going to be 2 multiplied by 1 because the a value is 1. Then we can start to tidy things up a bit. Minus 6 squared is going to be positive 36. Minus 4 times 1 times 13 will be minus 52. And then 2 times 1 will be 2. So we still have the 6 in front on the plus minus, then square root 36 minus 52 divided by 2. So then we just have to tidy up inside our root. 36 take away 52 is going to be minus 16. So we end up with 6 plus minus the square root of minus 16 divided by 2. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because we cannot get the square root of a negative number. So what we have to do is break down root minus 16 to give us root 16 multiplied by root minus 1. Because 16 multiplied by minus 1 is going to be minus 16. We can work out the square root of 16, that's going to give us 4. And the square root of minus 1 will always give us I. That's very, very important. This is what complex numbers is all about. The square root of minus 1 will give us I. So we end up with 6 plus or minus 4i all over 2, which is going to give us 6 over 2 plus or minus 4i over 2. 6 divided by 2 is going to give us 3. 4 divided by 2 is going to give us 2 with an I stuck on. So we end up getting 3 plus minus 2i, which we can break down to be 3 plus 2i or 3 minus 2i. And these are the roots of our equation.